So we are going to start off working in Illustrator, and you're going to have a couple of things to do before you start kind of playing around in Illustrator, trying out things to better prepare you for when you're working on your first project using Illustrator. So again, you can go to your Start menu. You should be able to start typing ILL, and then you should find that Illustrator will pop up. When we go to a new document, what you're going to find, in this case, I have very simply done and kept it at a letter-sized document. You can see you have different kinds of paper sizes in that way. Just be familiar with that. Also be familiar with, just like in Photoshop, this also happens in Photoshop, by the way, but just like in Photoshop, you can actually input a height and width in your finished document. You can change that from points to inches, for example. All right, so those are just a few ways to work, but right now we're just doing a simple letter-sized document. To change over from Photoshop, you will not see a resolution. That's super important because Illustrator doesn't work via pixels. Photoshop is a pixel-based. This is a point-based or a raster program. You're going to have pixels or you're going to have points that will be connected, just like push pins with string going between them. You can stretch them further apart, you can pull them closer together, but it's still the same push pins and string. You maintain a great quality of image in Illustrator when making it large or small. That's the big draw to this. So I'm going to go ahead, just open up a blank Illustrator file. And so after you have done this part, what I'm going to have you do is just take a look at some of these tools. There's a black selection tool. That's just a general, I select the whole thing that I just made. There's also a direct selection tool, and that's something you would need to pick out individual points. A few things of, let me just go ahead and get rid of that. There we go, we won't be bugged again. A few things of notable would be using some of these pen tools. The regular pen tool, if you hover over anything, you will see that you will have a little idea of what that tool is pop out. Curvature Tool. And again, just like any of my Adobe programs, a lot of you have worked with Photoshop already. When you click and hold any of these tools that has a teeny tiny little triangle, you will find that it has other options in there. So those are really, really important things for you as you're working. This one, the Magic Wand tool, if I click and hold, there are no other options. You'll see no triangle down there. So again, just some basics to get you started. We've got our top menu bar. We've got our tools over on this side, and we've got more palettes or windows available over on this side. You can add to these as needed by going up to Windows, and you could say, oh, I need my gradient tool. I can go ahead and select that, and you will see it will add it in there. I can use the double arrow, and it'll seat it right back where it came from. There it is. There it's not. Okay? So go back over on your left-hand side. You will find that they have a Type tool. Under the Type tool, there's a few different ways to utilize that Type tool, so be aware of that. You have line segments and arcs, spirals, grids, and polar grids. Again, you probably are going to utilize these more, especially at the beginning, okay? You've got your shape, rectangle, rounded rectangle, ellipse, polygon, star, and flare tools. You have your paintbrush tool and your blob brush. The blob brush is quickly becoming a favorite of a lot of people, and I'll explain a reason why. Then we move into some of these others. You've got pencils and path erasers, and all those good things. You've got your regular eraser and a few more lovelies. Just like Photoshop, you've got a zoom tool. You could also use Control Plus and Control Minus. Will get you bigger and smaller. And again, just like Photoshop, Control 0 will give you a full screen preview. All right, so I'm going to stop blabbing on and on about those tools, but I'm going to get you started with a few things. First of all, when you go into that line segment, that's for a simple line segment, just a simple line. That line, you have to decide, is it going to have, if I do this, you'll see that I've got a small line that has a little tiny bit of black on it. I'm going to go to my selection tool and select that path, and I can actually increase the thickness of it. So right here I've increased that by quite a bit. I have it marked as uniform, but let's say I go ahead and I decide I want to do this profile, where it starts off skinny, it gets wide, and it goes skinny again. I can also change the style of which this particular one would come in. For example, I can choose almost like this great, like a rough brush stroke. I could choose this little sort of swirly arrow. I've got this, and if you zoom in, or if I make that thicker, you can actually see that it looks like the side part of denim. So there are other options available. We won't really talk too much about those right now, but know that there are other options. You're pretty much sticking with basic right now. You may venture off into this great little charcoal, almost like a feathered charcoal stroke, but really basic's going to be the way to go. And generally you're probably going to stick with uniform and then this profile one, again, depending on what you want as an outcome. Okay? So you're with me. With that, we can now move on into our tools here. So if I go to the star tool, I can start stretching a star. This is what becomes very important. Okay? So if you look up, you've got one box, that's a solid box with a slash, and you've got almost like a little outline box. And this is what they mean. This is your fill color. So whatever color is in here is what color goes on the inside of any closed object or closed path. Okay? In this case, when you see a slash through it, it will be clear, completely transparent. Right here, this is my stroke color. The stroke is the outside edge of whatever that closed path is. That's what my stroke color will give me. I can, of course, increase. Let's say I just want a great big bold star in there. Or I can go ahead back here and give myself some color. Let's say I want to go ahead and fill it with red. On the flip side, though, if I go back to the outer stroke and I press this none, again, that box with the red slash, I can take off the stroke completely and just have that one red star. So again, we've got an outer stroke and a fill. The fill can be adjusted with a variety of different colors. The outer stroke can be adjusted with a variety of different colors. If I wanted to make that outer stroke green, I could make it green, and then I could increase that. Okay? And again, you have a lot of options, but the first thing you have to do is you have to grab that select tool, make sure that object is selected before you can affect it. This is the one I've selected. I can now affect it. I can go ahead and change that edge color to blue if I wanted to. All right? Moving on, you should know each one of these should function very much like what it says. I will tell you, if you hold the shift key down on some of these, you will get a perfect square, a perfect circle. Again, shift key. All right? Next, we're going to move on, and we're going to go into, and I'm going to leave you with the Blob Brush. The Blob Brush is super helpful because with these line tools, with this segment here, there's never going to be a fill. I cannot fill a segment. It's not a closed path. I can't fill it. So what do I need to do? I need to start over again because maybe I need a little bit of color in the middle there. I need to add to it, or I need to do something. The Blob tool actually is quite fun because what it does is it gives you an outer stroke. It gives you a closed path. So when I go ahead and select it, I'm going to have a bunch. Do you see that? I'm going to zoom in, Control plus. When I go ahead and select it, where did we go? I have a path all the way around this particular one that I can then go ahead and edit. So I can go ahead and edit this anchor point. I can grab that guy and I can pull it out there. And this is what's going to be very important for you guys. Okay? I see some of you may have wandered off in your attention. Don't wander. This is when I'm starting to show you how you can actually adjust. Okay? So if I have used my Blob Brush, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make just a red shape. I'm going to go ahead and grab that particular tool. And then I'm going to go ahead to my white selection tool. So I'm on my white selection tool, and I can now grab any of those anchor points. And I need you to look. On the selection tool, what has come up on a curve is this little guy right here. He's called a handle. When you grab the handlebars of a bicycle, what do? You can either go straight, you can turn right, you can turn left, you could do a 360, whatever it is. You're going to move. You're going to turn in some fashion. The same will come with these handles. I can pull and sort of twist these in different places, in different shapes, in different ways, and it will adjust the edges. Let's say I despise that. Look at that. Boom, boom. Looks like I'm not doing anything. I just undone what I did with the Control Z, or Edit, Undo, or Shift Control Z will bring me back. Shift Control Z will bring me back to where I started. So they're kind of similar to Photoshop, but that Shift Control Z, it continues to walk you backwards. Okay? So again, white selection, grab that anchor, click on it to activate, and then you could move it wherever you need it to be moved. I click on the anchor, I move it. I click on the anchor, let's say I just want to change that amount of curve, and I move it. So you could very easily use that blob tool to find an empty spot. Let's go right here. Notice my cursor is getting smaller and my cursor is getting larger, and you're not seeing me do anything on screen. That is the parentheses key on my keyboard. I'm sorry, the bracket key. If you look above the enter key, kind of above the enter key a little bit to the left, you'll see what looks like a square parentheses. It looks like this. And then another one that looks like this. This one will make your cursor smaller. This one will make your cursor larger. For those of you who did Photoshop with me, that's a very familiar combination of keystrokes that will help you. Okay? I go to my direct selection tool. I'm going to go ahead and select an anchor point, and I'm going to move that out. I've now manipulated that bracket key to look kind of like the letter E. Let's say I bring this guy up. I click on him and I bring him down. I've manipulated that so you can get sort of a raw form and then again manipulate your text. Okay? So those are some of the basics I want you to start playing around with. You will have a class pick to show me evidence of your explorations. So you're going to want to make sure you stay tuned for that when you come into class tomorrow. You're going to go ahead, take your iPad, take a picture of your screen, and then complete that for your daily point. So I want to make sure that you realize, again, we have a selection tool, a direct selection tool. You have line segments. You have a blob tool. You have various shape-based tools. And then you've got a pen tool. The pen tool, I'll see if I run out of time on this video, but the pen tool is really simply where you're clicking. See how it's filling? And I have to go all the way back to the end for it to become a closed object. So again, that's the pen tool located right here. I can still then manipulate my points. I can grab that anchor, and for some reason, maybe I want to bring it down like that. So again, those are the things I want you to mess around with. They're all located in this sort of upper third of your toolbar. I will give you a list of things to be trying tomorrow, and even towards the end of the class period today, so be successful with that.